We cellists are unfortunately apt to suffer from acrophobia, the fear of excessive height. As a rule, we have been taught to begin exploring the fingerboard in first position or sometimes in fourth position, where the thumb fits so nicely into the crotch of the cello neck. We work our way through the various low positions, and then it takes months or years before the thumb finally comes out of hiding and begins to be a playing finger on top of the fingerboard. This creates the aura of a special difficulty to be conquered only by an extraordinary effort. The higher we go on the fingerboard, the more hazardous life becomes. Well, I think that as soon as it can be established that we have the ambition and the talent to become full-fledged cellists, we know that we will need to use all 5 fingers to identify pitches. So we should do so right away. The initial difficulty in stopping the string with any one finger is twofold. A, we don't know yet where the finger is to go. B, we don't have the strength to place it with precision. This difficulty may be greater for the 4th finger than the 2nd because of the former's natural weakness that we shall have to overcome gradually. But the thumb usually is sturdy enough. It just has to be put down in a way different from the other 4 fingers. To learn to place 4 fingers accurately next to each other, even in first position, takes a long time. We shall talk about that at the end of this session. But to drop any one finger, including the thumb, onto the right spot involves just a process of trial and error. We can progress steadily without the risk of creating an undesirable positioning or tensing of arm or hand, which occurs often when beginners put one badly placed finger after another. In part 2, I emphasized the need for holding the cello in such a way that the full string length is easily accessible for the placement of the hand. As to the profile of the arm, let us generalize for now that the forearm from the elbow to the knuckles of the hand ought to be fairly straight. Each finger should be rounded. The first joint will, as a rule, be convex, and the first phalange placed somewhat flatter than perpendicular to the string and inclined toward the scroll. We should avoid a bony finger contact. When the thumb is behind the neck, I think it ought to be always extended and placed flat on the thickest part of the neck. This will complement the slanted position of the other fingers. I prefer that the thumb as a playing finger cover almost always 2 strings and also be inclined toward the scroll so as to allow the first finger to have a fleshy contact with the string. Obviously, the thumb will cover only the A string when it is placed next to an open D string, as on the first page of the Kodai Solo Sonata, omitting the retuned bass notes. When the thumb covers 2 strings, the lower one ought to bisect the thumbnail, and the higher one will, thus as it must, be kept off the bone of the first joint. Chapter C of the exercises is designed to give us confidence in the usefulness of all 5 fingers and to forestall anxiety about the upper part of the fingerboard. We should get to know it with an exercise that requires neither finger pressure nor shifting. For beginners, this will eliminate the danger of cramping. What I said about the bow is equally true of the left hand. Let us be comfortable being somewhere before complicating the process of getting there. I suggest that we start identifying some key pitches by finding the harmonics that divide the string into 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 equal parts. When we feel secure about locating these, we can better proceed to finding other pitches independently. First, dividing the string into two equal parts, we obtain the pitches of the open string and the octave above it. With three equal parts, we have the open string and two identical pitches of an octave plus a fifth above it. With four equal parts, we have already encountered the middle octave, whose pitch is raised another octave on either side of it by again halving the remaining string length. With five equal parts, we get four times the same pitch, two octaves plus a major third above the open string. With six equal parts, we have again the middle octave, next to it the same pitches as in the division into three parts, and beyond those two pitches sounding still one octave higher. Paragraph F of section C underlines the fact that whatever harmonics can be found on one side of the middle of the string appear at the same distance and with the same pitches on the other side in mirror fashion. This is also quite interesting in a psychological way. No cellist is faced by having to play, let us say, the harmonics A, E, A in the lower half of the A string. But may feel less certain about covering the same distances going the other way. Why? Simply because one operates less frequently up there. We have to arrange our practicing so that up there in the blue yonder becomes at home, up here. In the division into five equal parts, we have, in terms of solidly placed fingers, intervals of a major third, a perfect fourth, a perfect fifth, and an octave. The arm, moving from one note to the next, will therefore proceed at an even speed and do so with confidence when it is positioned so that all these notes are equally accessible. Eventually, these key notes should become independently familiar. Then we shall feel secure at free entrances like the high A in the last movement of Haydn's D major concerto. Or the even higher E at the end of Prokofiev's Sinfonia Concertante. When we are reasonably comfortable with chapter C, let us try to move one finger at a time, now solidly placed across the length of the fingerboard. I titled chapter D, Placing the Left Hand, because I consider it of the utmost importance that the arm and hand be positioned well while the fingers glide smoothly along the string. We can at this point establish three distinct intensities in bringing a playing finger into contact with the string. I call the first and firmest one the setting strength. It has to tell the string precisely how long it is supposed to be to produce the desired pitch. The The sensation is the same as the dancer's foot, establishing the initial firmness of a step. The second phase I call the coasting strength. There the weight is elastically lightened, but the fingertips still must identify the pitch clearly. The third phase I call the traveling strength, the contact now reduced to the weight that is necessary to hold the string against the fingerboard. This requires very little effort indeed. I start the sequence on page 4 with the thumb, since we cannot operate in the higher positions without it. Subsequently, each of the other 4 fingers goes through the same routine. The way the exercise is written, the thumb must cover a perfect fifth. Let me insert here my concern for strings that give us true fifths. Experience tells us that it is very difficult to play in tune on string instruments. Let us not aggravate the problem by using false or unmatched strings. Frequently, one has to place fingers on the cello, even on strings of the same brand, farther back on the D string than on the corresponding notes on the A string. We must find 4 strings where we can finger perfect fifths straight across. If we have an unmatched pair and cannot afford at the moment to buy better strings, we can alleviate the problem temporarily by shortening that string on which we have to place the fingers farther back. Snip off ½ an inch from a soft match. Double it over and slide it under the string next to the nut at a distance that will give you a true fifth at the octave point. As we begin to play chapter D, we brace the thumb by placing the index finger on top of it, next to the thumbnail, and use the arm weight to establish a good contact with the string. The firmness of the thumb must not interfere with the independent lightness of the other fingers. Right from the beginning, never use the weight of the hand to press the thumb down. The double lines at the shifts are meant to suggest a very slow and relaxed movement, lasting 3 full eighth notes. The arrival, however, must be exactly timed. Don't be afraid to commit yourself to a specific pitch at the given moment. Only by daring to let the lock snap shut rhythmically after the gentle slide can we gradually increase our chances of producing correct pitches right on the head. I suggest that we do not mask the shifts by letting up on the bow pressure, as we shall do later during many portamentos, but keep it even. Swelling on the shifts must be avoided by not increasing the bow speed. It will be the better part of wisdom to train the thumb throughout section 1 by playing at first only on the higher string indicated, then on the lower one, then playing them together, and finally using as a daily exercise section 4 in the calisthenics on page 66. First, we warm up the thumb with a gliding exercise. Then we shift between the increasingly larger components of a whole tone scale in fifth. Up major seconds. Down major thirds. Up tritones. and so on with minor sixth, minor seventh, and octaves. This will permit us to ascertain every day if we have a solid command over the thumb as the all-important root finger in high positions. In all the B sections, I practice an exercise that was originally meant to facilitate a good vibrato, but serves as a general strengthening exercise as well. Every teacher comes across students who have a vibrato that is either too shivery, tight and narrow, or, even worse, uncontrollably slow and wobbly. To let the left hand know that there's only one place of concentrated strength, namely the first joint of the playing finger, I use this exercise of bending and straightening the fingers that has a parallel in the analogous exercise of part 3. The only vibrato that is any good is, in my opinion, the one that can instantaneously reflect the emotional intensity one wishes to impart to any given note or phrase. Toward that end, one should practice as many variations in speed and width as possible. In my exercises, this is stressed in the miscellaneous shifts on page 41, where I want to equalize the vibrato on all the fingers. Here in chapter D, I want to lay the groundwork for leaving the entire arm relaxed while the fingertip rests firmly on the string. Most often the forearm initiates the vibrato's undulations. The intensity is concentrated only in the finger pad. For the four fingers, 1 to 4, this exercise is mostly an up and down motion. The first phalange remains unchanged throughout. On the count marked with an X, one brings in one smooth motion the other two phalanges into a straight line with the first one, while the thumb abandons its place under the neck. On the next count, one returns to the original rounded position. The thumb, when used at the top of page 12 as a playing finger, stands at about a 90-degree angle to the other fingers. Up and down cannot apply to it. Instead, one opens the hand toward the bridge to develop suppleness. Having flexed our muscles in the B section and feeling warm and potent in the first joints, we use free entrances with large arm motions and an explosive vibrato in the C sections. For all fingers, the hand must be very compact here. Again, the thumb will be braced by the index finger resting on top of it. The D sections are the first attempt at quick finger actions. For these exercises, raise the fingers as high off the string as you can and let it strike like a cobra. The weight of the arms secures the long notes, but only the fingers are active on the short ones. The snap of the thumb is facilitated by balling the left hand into a loose fist and extending the thumb straight out. after dealing with vertical suppleness, we should also concern ourselves with the horizontal one of the webs of the left hand. In chapter E, I juxtapose one stationary finger with one moving up and down. Not everybody will be able at first to effect all the stretches in all the keys. Just progress slowly and avoid at all times stiffness in the thumb. If you place your left hand, as I suggested before, the thumb will always change its place smoothly under the neck whenever the group of the second, third, and fourth finger moves. When, on the other hand, only the first finger separates itself from the other fingers, it will do so spoke-wise while the thumb stays in place. In compositions like the Bach suites, where we change positions frequently by only a half step, this flexibility of the thumb is of the utmost importance for good intonation, articulation, and economy of means. Even in a simple scale, I often encounter faulty intonation when, for example, a student attempts to play two fourth fingers that are a half step apart with an inflexible thumb instead of opening up. On pages 17 through 19 of my exercises, I have put down what I consider to be the minimum information that every cellist ought to have about questions of intonation. To summarize, I want to say now only that for most string players, in contrast to performers on instruments with fixed pitches, there is no such thing as any pitch being good for all occasions. For us, every note depends, for the right pitch, on its harmonic context and melodic attraction. We also have to take into account the comma that makes it impossible to reconcile certain pitches that are tied to a succession of perfect fifths. This will influence the tuning of our open strings when the unavoidable simultaneous use of high and low open strings would give us noticeably impure pitch relations unless we tune with somewhat narrowed fifth. Test this compatibility by playing 4 harmonics on all 4 strings. Now, I would like to use pages 20 to 22 to begin to fill out a whole position, a task that I described as decidedly difficult a little while ago. The first part of this difficulty lies in our fingers not being evenly spaced by nature. The second and third fingers have a natural closeness, of which we shall have to disabuse them frequently. On the other hand, quite often we don't want the fingers to be evenly spaced for the aforementioned reasons of harmonic and melodic allegiance. I hope that what we have done so far will be of some help in preventing any clawing of the fingerboard. The constant alternating between the setting and the coasting weight of the fingers should prevent the locking of the hand. The thumb must be a gentle guide on these 3 pages, making its helpful presence felt without ever clutching the neck stiffly. I make a great point in these exercises of pitch reference. With what pitch should I play in tune at any given moment? In the first measures on page 20, 3 of the 4 slurred notes are part of one key, vertically bound to a pitch that shows up on the second note of each measure. Turn back to page 19 to check why these pitches are used as reference. The third note in each group is a key foreign note, melodically straining toward the fourth note. The faster the tempo, the closer these notes should move to the ones toward which they are attracted. When we come to the 16th notes at the bottom of page 20, the thumb acts as a welcoming committee for each foursome. It helps us to prepare the compass of each position from the fourth to the first finger. The other two fingers are filled in subsequently. In this case, we must strive for the closeness of the second to the first finger. It will depend entirely on the speed at which we are playing, whether we open the hand from the fourth note of each group toward the first note of the next one, as we do at a leisurely tempo, or pounce upon it, each foursome separately, as we must at great speed. An example of the letter technique is the beginning of the Flight of the Bumblebee by Rimsky-Korsakov. Or Requiebros by Cassado, how much easier it is to avoid shifts within any triplet here. Page 20 deals with the hand in chromatic spacing, the distance between first and fourth fingers comprising a minor third. Page 21 widens this to a major third. Please don't call these major thirds extensions. This word always gives me the impression of someone on the rack being torn limb from limb. Minor and major thirds are the standard delineations of low positions on the cello. Making a minor third smaller yields a contraction. An expansion of a major third can properly be called an extension. Under all conditions, we shall keep as compact a hand as possible for reasons of sound and economy. Of course, small hands will have to lash out for notes that larger ones can reach. But what is common to the grasshopper technique necessary for the small hand and the more stable arm position of the larger one is the fact that in both cases the weight is transferred from playing finger to playing finger. These 3 pages furnish good exercises to practice a finger placement that is not only accurate but very supple. Next time, we shall work on thumb positions, where the limitation of 3 diatonic notes in the low positions will be replaced by the opportunity of playing as many as 5 scale-wise notes without shifting. And there, the violin, with its limit of 4 notes in one position, gets trumped by the lowly cello.